Hello and welcome. It's The Chat. I am Manny. My guest on the program is an intelligent and talented Nigerian making waves in the United Kingdom. He's a lawyer, a member of the Chartered Institute of Taxation, an international speaker, an author. In fact, he's a man for the big occasions.
Dele Ogun is a historian, author, publisher, corporate lawyer, a Toastmasters certified gold standard advanced public speaker, convener of the Fatherland Group, and a founding partner at Akin Palmer LLP. Born 1962 in Onikon, Lagos, Dele moved to England at the age of 6. He attended London Metropolitan University for his LLB in 1984, the Inns of Court School of Law and Lincoln's Inn for his call to English Bar in 1985, the Nigerian Law School for his call to Nigerian Bar in 1986, the London School of Economics and Political Science for his LLM in Company and Commercial Law in 1987, and the Chartered Institute of Taxation of England and Wales to become a chartered taxation practitioner. Following some years of work as a tax expert in the London headquarters of the global accountancy practice PricewaterhouseCoopers, he began practicing as a solicitor in London in 1991. He joined the London headquarters of the global law firm Hogan Lovells LLP as a corporate tax lawyer. He became the first chairman of the African, Caribbean and Asian Lawyers Group in England. He left Hogan Lovells in 1997 to combine his first calling as an advocate with his corporate law experience by establishing the first and still the only African-owned corporate law firm in England and Wales, the London-based Akin Palmer LLP. An alumnus of the U.S. State Department International Exchange Program, he enjoys self-expression as an author, with his membership of the Society of Authors with several books to his name. Dele is married to Esther Ogun, and they have been married for over 33 years with children.
Welcome to the program, Dele Oguns.
Thank you very much, Manny.
Now tell me about this name, Oguns. It's a short form, isn't it?
That's correct. The original version of the family name was Ogun Etimiloju, although it was pronounced as Ogun Etimiloju.
Okay.
But partly out of consideration for our children who are growing up in the United Kingdom, having their name mangled every single time by their white counterparts, and also thinking about their job applications. When the CV arrives with Ogun Etimiloju on the CV, job prospects go down immediately.
Does he have a translation in English?
It means Ogun, the god of war, does not embarrass me and would not let me down. Either version will work. It would never embarrass me, and it would never let me down.
That's interesting. It sounds like you did a bit of study on Yoruba language itself. But let's start from your early days, Dele. Where were you born?
I was born at Island Maternity Hospital, Onikon, Lagos. That's where I made my entry onto this earth in 1962. And but then I only spent a short time in Lagos at that point, because by the age of 1, I was taken to the village in the borders of Ogun and Ondo, taken to the village to be raised by my grandmother. And that's where I spent my early years until the age of 6. So I was a village boy. I was the one going down to the stream with all the other kids, swimming in the stream. That was our swimming pool. That's where we got our drinking water. And we walk up the valley side back to the main settlement. That was my life from up until the age of 6.
But that age of 6 meant that you were, in 1967 or 1969,
Yeah.
you found yourself in the United Kingdom.
Yeah.
How did that happen?
Well, my parents had come to the United Kingdom, and then come 69, my father sent instruction for me to be sent over. So I was put on a plane, and so that little boy was stuck on a plane, flew over here unaccompanied, never flown before, and next thing he lands in London, England. And that's how the life in England began at the age of 7.
Was that where you got your first job?
My first job in Nigeria?
No, well, your very first job.
Oh no, my very, very first job. I was a student. I was cleaning offices, as a student, as a 14, 15-year-old. I used to wake up really early in the morning. That's how I made my pocket money. So I've been fairly self-reliant from a very early age. So that was the first job. And then even while I was studying, doing my degree, I was working as a security guard.
I was just going to say that, interestingly, you worked as a security guard.
That's right.
When you finished working as a security, you became a lawyer. You were going back to some of your clients,
Well, that was a remarkable thing. I was, during the evenings, at the weekends, and sometimes during the summer holidays, I'll be in the uniform of a security guard, patrolling these buildings, investment banks in the City of London. Never imagined that one day I'll become a city corporate lawyer. And as a city corporate lawyer, I would be heading back to meetings in some of those buildings. I mean, how remarkable is that?
Now, listen, Dele, you are an author. Okay, you have written quite a number of books.
That's right.
And one of them is a Fatherless People. And you got a lot of rave reviews here in the UK and Europe. Tell me what that book was all about.
Yeah, well, as I said, given the journey that I've had, where life starts in Nigeria, I'm a Yoruba boy to the core. I'm taken out involuntarily against my wishes. At least I wasn't consulted in the exercise. I find myself having to start life again in England. But I was always a homeboy and always looking back to home. And some of my early holidays started sparking an interest in terms of what is really wrong with that country. This narrative of corruption, this narrative of incompetence that prevails, it didn't make sense to me. So I became curious as to what is the real reason why Nigeria is running the way it is. Why is it upside down and inside out, given that our peoples generally are so ambitious, competitive? And we could see that once they got into the system here, they performed at the highest level. So there was some disconnect. And I was determined to try and find out what was really wrong. And so that book was a product of 20 years of patient reading.
But that is obviously not your first book. It's the most recent, isn't it?
Well, no. The most recent is really hot off the shelf right now. That's the history of the slave trade and abolition of the slave trade. That's the new book is out now. The very first one was a book titled Identity and Development, which was really going to these issues of nation, tribe, nationalism, state, etc. And I've taken the same approach in the latest book, which is A Slave Ship Called Jesus, because people initially react with horror. How can you call a book a slave ship called Jesus?
What's the inspiration behind that book?
Well, the inspiration was simply in the course of, again, my research, finding that there was actually a slave ship that was called the Jesus of Lubeck. It was owned by Queen Elizabeth I. and he was deployed in the slave trade. And there was another ship that was called the Grace of God. To see these names that should be revered in the context of goodness of mankind, them being used as names for ships in an evil trade, and think of the deaths on those ships in the course of their transition. Somebody had the audacity to name the ship the Jesus of Lubeck. So that's part my curiosity as to what was going on in this trade. What was the relationship between the church and the slave trade? And just the other day, I discovered that the real architect of empire, you see how people talk about Lugard. Lugard was just a builder on the ground. The real guy, the real architect, is a chap called Joseph Chamberlain, who was the colonial secretary at the time Nigeria was constructed, 1895 to 1906. Do you know what? This guy I just discovered recently, he grew up in Highbury. His formative years were just around the corner from my secondary school, just around the corner from our family home. The fields that I used to play on, I used to football crazy, and where I used to play football, almost right opposite his house. Now, how incredible is that? That the story of Nigeria, the architect of Nigeria, he and I played on those same fields.
Let's talk about your sister. I know you have a sister who was former finance minister in Nigeria.
Yeah.
Kemi Adeosun.
That's right. That's my, there are three girls behind me. And Femi is the one born immediately after me. Kemi, who you're referring to, comes next, and then Remy is the youngest of the girls. Yes. You
know, when she was finance minister in Nigeria, and then all of a sudden, unceremoniously, she left the office.
That's right.
What could have happened?
That's right. Well, I tell you what, when she went into office, it caused me a lot of grief. The fact that she went into office, because
I thought that would have made you more popular.
No, you see, our family values are our family values. My politics is radical, and so I was no friend of the government. But Kemi is a technocrat. She's brilliant in financial matters. That's where the gift lies within the family. She inherited that from my father, a real financial wizard. We're proud of her. That's the office that Obafemi Awolowo occupied during the time of the war government. That's the office that my junior sister occupied. So extremely.
Yeah, but but her entry was not the same as her exit.
Her exit was simply a reflection on the country rather than on her. Because this is somebody who was born in the United Kingdom, had lived all her life in the United Kingdom. You remember, I was born at home. She was born here. Primary school in Highbury, secondary school in Highbury, just like her brother. Yeah. University in London. And she didn't actually have a Nigerian passport. So she wasn't a Nigerian. Me as a lawyer, I looked into the legislation when the nonsense started about her having procured a forged NYSC certificate. What nonsense.
As a lawyer, did you think it was a criminal charge?
I thought it was a nonsense that they were running, but I knew what the game was. You see, I understand the political system in Nigeria in a way that she doesn't. I knew that politics in Nigeria is dirty, that before they let you into office, they've put something in their pocket that they're going to use if the time comes to try and mess your name up. You never come out quite the way you went in. That's just a reality of Nigerian politics. She went in good faith. She did her job to popular acclaim. She's still hailed wherever she goes, that she did the job, and then they played dirty. But anybody who cares about the truth knows that she would never indulge in any skullduggery, hanky-panky. You see, what they couldn't do, they couldn't get her on any financial embezzlement, could they? So they had to go scraping the barrel. and say that, oh, it's the NYSE certificate that was procured for her. She wouldn't even know how to get the NYSE certificate. She grew up in England, but they tried to mess up her name, but it would never work. The Ogunsimoju family, the Adeosun family, pedigree family. And if Nigeria likes to mess up its best, it doesn't bode well for diasporans.
Pick a question.
Number 4. Yeah, I've got it. Are you happy with the level of insecurity in the country? Hell no. Who could be happy? Who could be? You have to be a psycho to be happy with the level of insecurity in Nigeria. We've never had it so bad. It is a disgrace. It is appalling that we, supposed to be the giants of Africa, are behaving like the pygmies of the world, such that even our own people cannot travel on their own roads, cannot travel to their villages, their hometowns in safety. How on earth are you going to attract foreign direct investment? How are you going to bring tourism in when you can't keep the people on the ground safe?
What do you think the government is not doing right?
They're not doing anything right. Is it the exchange rate that at record levels will soon touch 1,000 to 1 under this administration if they continue the way they are? Is it lights that can you imagine that now I am touching 60, all the years of my life since I was born in Island Maternity Hospital, still no lights. It's not technology. It is not revenue that's the problem. It's just the political will to do the right thing, to switch those lights on such that human beings are not living like animals, dependent on the moonlight and sunlight for their daily illumination. So where do you begin? Is it transportation, where our people spend 4 hours on the road to get to work and 4 hours on the road to get back again? You see, part of the problem is this, let me tell you, that because we've got this nonsense pseudo-presidential system, I call it an imperial system, because the emperor only speaks when he chooses to. Under the parliamentary system, you had the leader of the opposition, Obafemi Awolowo, tackling Balewa every single day, questioning on behalf of the people, asking the questions that need to be asked as to what's going on. But because of the switch, and it was a deliberate switch to the presidential system, in order to protect and cushion the office of the presidency, they turned them into royalty rather than chief executives. They need to come back to the level of chief executives so that they can be held to account for their custodial services.
I saw you making a speech, at a forum. I can't remember what it was, but you were making a speech, and you described yourself as a Nigerian and British. In terms of ratio now, how much Nigerian are you to the British that you also are? on a scale of 0 to 100, how much?
That's a very good question. Very good question. I would say that emotionally and culturally, I am 95% Nigerian. Where the British side of me comes more in the way that I speak, after living here for so long, but also I like to think in the way that I think. In Britain, we don't have too much reverence for age and so-called seniority. What we revere is good thinking, and we recognize that could come at all ages. And so we tackle issues. We're evidence-led. and we're not afraid to question convention. But when it comes to the cultural side, the lifestyle that I love, nothing gets better than my people on the dance floor. I always tell people I was born on the dance floor. You know, when you see me at parties, you see somebody very different, as against the troublesome political mind. So that's me all over. Our women are the best dressed, the best looking. You know, you can't beat as simply. It's just a tragedy that our politicians are so bad, but our people are good.
I like the way you're so full of yourself.
Well, they say the greatest love of all.
As a lawyer, I am really, really worried about, you know, the criminal justice system in Nigeria, you know, especially with regards to prosecution and justice itself. You know, what are your thoughts about the criminal justice system in Nigeria?
It's a matter of very, very serious concern indeed, and it should be for everybody. That there can be no justice in a society that runs a criminal justice system as it's running now. I'll give you the example of a member of my side of the family in the village, where there's a land dispute, only for one side to falsely allege trespass against members of our family. And an old man, 85 years of age, was locked up because the other side was using their influence until we stepped in. And would you imagine that bail was set at 1 million naira for an 85-year-old villager? Which villager could possibly come across that kind of money in terms of bail condition? How heartless can a magistrate be to go and fix bail at that level for village people? So it meant that if we did not step in and provide the necessary surety and financial support, they'll be languishing in prison. That is a terrible system.
You're going on a castaway for 10 days or 2 weeks, let's say.
Okay.
And you're allowed to take only 5 items with you.
All right.
All right. What will these items be?
I'm gonna take my my football trainers.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the football, of course, because once I've got those two, I got the roots of happiness. You know, I gotta take. I'm a music man, as I told you. I was a DJ at one point while I was at an undergraduate. I used to spin the tracks, and so music is in my DNA. And so that means I've got to take my phone. Yeah, and I've got to take a biro. As a writer, I'm an old school writer, so I've got to have my scribbling pad, because from the tip of my pen comes the inspiration for my thoughts. As the pen starts to move across the paper, ideas starts to flow.
So what else? What's the fifth one?
Oh, yeah. So my fifth one is got to be a book, because I don't watch. I'm not a TV watcher as such these days, unless it's football.
Okay, let's go back home a little bit. Let's go back home. I mean, you are married to a Nigerian,
yes,
aren't you?
Yes.
An Igbo woman at that.
An Igbo woman, a conch Igbo woman. Not. I say conch in the sense that not one of the ones who have been living in the West and who are effectively Yoruba or etc. This is straight from the Enugu Hills. Direct.
You went in search of her in Enugu?
No, it's just the stars.
How did you find her?
It's how fate brings people together. You know, it's just like Romeo and Juliet. You know, boy meets girl. Girl goes to law school in Nigeria. never been to Lagos before, never been to Yoruba land. Boy comes in from London and to go to the law school, same law school, same year. Eyes meet eyes, smile meets smile, and a relationship begins. And 30,
Wow.
I think we're 33 years now married, and with two lovely children.
We must end this conversation. It's been on, and I've enjoyed every bit of it. Have you,
So have
Dele?
I.
Oh, well, thanks a lot for being on the program.
It's a real pleasure.
Yes, and that's been Dele Ogun, my guest on the program this week. He is the one that's making waves all over the UK, a lawyer, a chartered member of the Chartered Institute of Taxation, an international speaker, and a man about town.
The Chat is produced by Channels Television. You can watch it again online. Just visit our social media platforms: Twitter, YouTube, Facebook.